if you say, hey, I'll try to take out the trash. Before I would say, no, you tell me, will you take out the trash? Yes or no? If you can't do it, someone else can, or I'll do it myself. Now I would say, Mike, why can't you take out the trash? How can I help you get to that end result?
Welcome back to Leading Without the BS. Unfiltered, unapologetic, and focused on unstoppable performance. I'm Mike Johnson, and I'm your host today. We're talking about fuzzy language and how that might be holding you back. What are some of the costs when clarity is not in your communication, and how might that be impacting your messaging to your team? And today we've got a great guest that's going to help us talk through some of those specifics. Danny, before we start off today, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it. I'm Danny Curlin. I'm plant manager at Koppers Performance Chemicals. Koppers is a global company, 1,800 employees. We're a division of that mother company where we do wood preservation chemicals we make. And in our plant, we have roughly 45 people. So I have responsible for a small portion of that 1,800. I've been with Koppers for 11 years.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. Love that you came in. This is going to be really exciting for our listeners to hear from someone that's living it every day. So I'm so excited. Before you started working with Wingspan, Danny, what were some of the leadership challenges you were facing day to day?
Mostly my lack of experience. I have led a team of different sizes for the past 7 years. Started out as a supervisor, became a manager, managing the supervisors, and eventually a plant manager over, the whole umbrella of the plant. So my past couple of years of promotions were very fast. So I didn't have much time as a production manager before I became a plant manager. So really, I think I already messed up. I felt really good about managing supervisors and managing the people on the floor, but managing managers was a whole nother ballgame. So having to learn how to speak differently to those different people and learn what motivates them and how to get them work as a team. I see the managers are definitely a different breed. They have a lot more responsibility, and they don't work together as well as the people on the floor.
Yeah, awesome. And love that you caught yourself in the moment there around some of that, what we jokingly call illegal language and bubble wrap, though having that awareness and catching yourself and shifting, that's what's awesome about how the work that you've done with Wingspan and how you've really focused on that intentional practice around your communication. So that's outstanding. So Danny, you mentioned making that transition from supervisor to manager, leading other leaders. How did you start to shift your language knowing that there were different requirements in your new position and start to find an awareness of what might not be as supportive and then shift that language similar to what you just did?
So I actually started out on the floor as an operator, and I didn't have a lot of responsibility or accountability. And as I was promoted to supervisor, my responsibility increased, and I realized very quickly that I couldn't say things like, I'll try to get this done. I had to get things done. So as my accountability increased, I also had to hold other people accountable. So it was really no choice. It was sink or swim. As I was promoted, it became increasingly obvious that I could not get away with anything. I couldn't try anything. I had to do, to quote a famous celebrity, there is no try, only do. Yoda.
Yeah.
But that's true. You can't try anything. In manufacturing, you have to get it done or explain why you can't. So it was really, I would say, accountability is what drove me to really recognize that I had to change my language.
You and I have very similar journeys on the manufacturing side, at least, where I also started out at the technician level and then moved up. And you quickly realize that what has made you successful to this point is likely not going to be the same thing that's going to make you successful in the new roles. And I love how you shared that. As you were making that transition and working through how you were crafting your communication to hold the team accountable and to deliver those results that were expected from you, what are some of the tools or frameworks that helped you move those conversations from vague to actionable?
I didn't accept when somebody couldn't make a decision. I maybe this wasn't the right way to always handle it, but it worked for me, which was I wouldn't take ambiguity. So if you said to me, if you started off with a long answer when I asked a yes or no question, I would stop you and say, it's either yes or no. Because that's how I have to report. I can't give a long answer to my boss. I can't accept a long answer from you. So that's helped me a lot. But as I've started to climb the ladder, I realized that it's not about forcing someone to make the decision. It's about getting to the root cause of why someone is not confident in making that decision. I realized that my job as a leader is to support that person, not to force an answer. So I've changed, but this has really been with the help of Wingspan. I didn't come to that realization on my own because what I was doing was working for me. It's just not the best way to approach that.
Yeah. Love that you shared earlier that, you're 100% responsible for yourself and you are accountable to others on your team. Realizing that they are accountable for their own performance and making that shift that now as a manager, yes, I am setting some clear expectations. I am also going to provide feedback both on and off track and then have those accountability conversations to all of those forms of support as a leader is a shift. When you hear leaders say, you mentioned working with Wingspan and how some of those tools and methods have supported that journey for you. When you hear leaders use some of the fuzzy language where they're saying, perhaps I need to, or I think, how do you help them get clarity, realizing some of that language is fuzzy?
So as I said before, I just wouldn't accept fuzzy language. But now I have, since working with Wingspan, I've attempted to get to the root cause. So if you give you an example, if you say, hey, I'll try to take out the trash. Before I would say, no, you tell me, will you take out the trash? Yes or no? If you can't do it, someone else can, or I'll do it myself. Now I would say, Mike, why can't you take out the trash? How can I help you get to that end result? How can I enable you to take out the trash? Before, words like enable were not in my vocabulary because it was frou-frou. It was the stuff out of textbooks. Can you really apply that in real life? I didn't believe so. So working with Heather and her challenging me to just apply what we, when we did our one-on-ones, I didn't want to because it felt robotic. It felt like, just taking stuff out of textbook and it not being me. But, you put your own spin on things, you apply it, and then now enable has become part of my vocabulary. And to watch the change, then you have your reward too. So you apply these things, you see that it actually works, that it's not just lip service, it's not just stuff out of a textbook, and then you profit, you win.
Love that. Yeah, I have heard from other leaders as well that there's some skepticism as they begin to work with us. And as you step in and are intentionally putting these things into practice and practicing consistently, even internally with your internal dialogue. And it's awesome to see that shift in what is actually capable. Building off of that, what is one thing that surprised you as an outcome of this shift you were making with your communication? One thing that surprised you that you saw from your team or your communications as you were changing?
Well, as I was saying earlier, managers are a whole nother breed of people. They've made it to the place where they made it doing the things that they've done. So they inherently they are somewhat leaders. So you have different levels of that too. You have strong-willed people and people that are a little bit more malleable. So to see it work on the strong-willed people, where I've tried things and I've hit a brick wall and it didn't work, to apply something that I've learned and to see the change, that makes you a believer. You can't deny that when you've tried something and failed, you try a different approach that you may be skeptical about and it works. I mean, again, you win.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started working with Heather, I'm certain that you were going through that transition to she was supporting you in finding out what are some of those autopilot tendencies for you. What were some of the tendencies that were popping up repeatedly for you in your language that were not supportive in your new role?
So I was I try, I need, I want, I think that's the worst one for me. I don't use it talking to my superiors. I only used it talking down, and it was very hard. It's still very hard because I've used it for so long, and it's all about confidence. When you get to the root cause of why you use that language, it's subconscious or unconscious. I didn't realize I was doing it. I didn't realize I wasn't confident. For me, it was when you get to that root cause, when you understand why you use that language, then you can act on it. Then you can actively try to stop yourself and get to the root of it and address that instead of just continuing to say, I think, I try. When you get to the root of why you use that language, you can head it off and you change your whole approach to leadership.
Yeah, that awareness and realization of when it's popping up for you, when you're in that autopilot space, realizing that it's likely not supporting the message that you're looking to communicate and how you're seeking to influence others. You mentioned as you started to make that shift, and even now as we continue to have that intentional practice, what is one way that you have supported yourself in that journey?
The biggest way is by enrolling myself in Wingspan. My direct report, I challenge my team to find ways to better yourself. If they need help, I help them, but I encourage them to go find their own thing. My production manager, great guy, extremely smart, very much an engineer. So we talked, we did a SWOT analysis with him. He agreed that leadership may be his weak point, maybe his opportunity. So I challenged him to go find some leadership consulting, counseling, training. And he found Wingspan, and he is a researcher. So I immediately thought, this is probably a decent thing to look at. I watched the change in him, and I, with Heather's help, I was encouraged to invest in myself. Best thing I ever did. It's helped me to get past the things that you don't recognize in yourself. When someone else with a lot of experience and know-how points it out and is convincing, you open your eyes and you start to change.
Yeah, it's awesome that you were introduced in that way. Is so awesome to see that he went out and did the work, did some homework, found something, realizing you gave him that objective, and then you saw the shift in him. What showed up differently in the way that he was delivering results?
So again, he was very much an engineer. So he approached everything black or white, yes or no. He was a bit of a scientist too, so he would get to the root cause of a lot of things, but he didn't know how to approach people or really be sympathetic, or I don't know what the best word is. Maybe he just expected results instead of, like I was mentioning before, being a leader is being responsible to that person as well and being a resource. And that's really what changed him. And to now, he's one of the best leaders. I hate to admit it, but I wouldn't want to compete against him trying to apply for a job. Because he's got both things now. He's got the technical aspect and he's got the leadership aspect, and it's really great to see his growth. Was enough convincing to me to continue to invest in this company. And now, I'm working my staff, anybody that has direct reports through Wingspan, it's become part of my budget. So the investment is real.
That's so awesome to see that shift where, and that's what's really awesome as an advisor as well, working with leaders just like you and their teams, to see that shift where many of us have come from a technical background, and what made us successful as we continue to escalate our careers. Some of those tendencies that we've developed over time that were really supportive and very transformational and supportive for us to advance our careers might now be holding us back. And we don't have all of those tools in our toolkit to succeed based on the new requirements. And that's awesome to see where people, as you mentioned, sometimes aren't aware. And then having that realization that for all of us, we have those autopilot tendencies, and to start to understand what is showing up for me and what of those tendencies is not supportive in what I'm being counted on for now, and finding those alternative strategies. So love that.
Could I add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So throughout my career, I've always been a big proponent of growing people. Maybe that's helped me, but it's always been the hard skills. Do you know Excel, Six Sigma, things that I can quantify and send to my superiors and say, hey, look, I've got this person, this skills. It was as I became a plant manager, I recognized that the soft skills are more important. You can easily learn Excel. Most everyone can. And it is used day to day, but minute by minute, you're using your leadership skills as soon as you walk in the door. When you're at home, really the first thing working with Wingspan with my direct report really opened my eyes to how much these soft skills have helped him, because he, as if I was to call him a process engineer, that was his role before he came to Koppers. I would say he's probably one of the best process engineers I've ever met. Very analytical, great. So he had those skills. That's where I struggled, because I couldn't provide the thing that I provided to people before, which is like, oh yeah, come on, man, Six Sigma, I can show you where to get that training. OSHA 10, all the trainings that are easily that you can Google and find and get to look up. So for him to be able to recognize what was needed, and we did work together on it. But he found Wingspan on his own, did his research. I met Ivan, and I was like, just really convinced that it's more than just the hard skills to make you successful. And he'll take that when he leaves Koppers. If he leaves Koppers, he'll take that if he gets promoted, and he'll continue to use these leadership skills that he's gained there. And I think it's an invaluable piece of what we do every day that now it's stuck with him. It's his.
That's so awesome. Love to see that, hear about the shift, and also the excitement that you have to see that success in your team, and how you're continuing to invest in the rest of your team, realizing how important this is. It's very common for leaders to focus on the technical side of the role. You mentioned that is easy. I can go find a specific training. It is much more challenging to focus on the behavioral side of performance. And what does that look like? One of the things that we talk about as we're supporting leaders, and you've likely heard this as well, is those externally observable behaviors that people are showing up with. What is one shift you saw in your team or in you that you noticed a difference, or others outside of realizing that this training was going on with Wingspan came and said, hey, I'm seeing a shift? What came to mind, or what was mentioned?
The thing that stands out the most, if I'm just going to answer that question right off the cuff, is the language. That's been the biggest thing. When I can see that someone, and myself, is intentionally, stopping yourself And as you change your language, you're introspective. Mm-hmm. You analyze, well, why am I saying that? And to see that, now I've had, 2 direct reports go through the Wingspan program and myself. To see that language change in myself, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But to see it in other people, that's return on investment every time I hear it. So, it's really great to see is when someone changes the language so that they change the interaction that they're having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. When you see them making that shift with the language, and you mentioned changing those interactions that they're having, what are some of the benefits, the really outstanding results you have seen from those exchanges because of that shift?
So I don't get to see how that's benefited them dealing with the direct reports. I'm not part of that interaction generally, but peer to peer, that's my responsibility is all my direct reports. So to see that communication increase, there's nothing more that I can ask for. I want a well-oiled team. Mm-hmm. I want a team that can work together and speak clearly, communicate. And we struggled with that before. Mm-hmm. We're still struggling with it. But when I see someone that's been through the Wingspan program trying to change their language when they're trying to get to a better outcome in a conversation, then I'm like, okay, I've got to send everybody through this. We've got to just funnel people through, because that's all that I can ask for. That's my core responsibility is managing my direct reports and making sure that they're enabled to do their job. And if I've got a 2-bird, 1-stone scenario there where I can provide training to a direct report to help him better deal with his or her direct reports and coworkers, it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those interactions are happening all the time. You mentioned that, hey, in the past I went and got somebody some Excel training, and then they might use that twice a week. These are interactions and conversations that your teams are having every day. And being in the manufacturing space, it doesn't stop. And so each of those interactions is really important to clarify expectations, to have that healthy feedback and accountability so that the team is meeting all of their objectives. That's really awesome. If someone is listening to this and they're feeling overwhelmed or they're uncertain about how to make some of that transition with regards to their own communication, what guidance do you have for them?
Well, long ago in my career, when I was a lot younger, I asked someone very successful, what's the key to success? And the person told me, no matter how crazy it sounds, no matter what it is, just give it a try. You can regret not trying something, but you give it a try and see for yourself. That's the best advice I could give. Is I was skeptical, very skeptical at first, because it's, like I said, it's easy to quantify Excel training or anything else like that. But to have some soft skills, something that I might not be able to easily translate when it comes to, hey, why did you invest in this? I gave it a try.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. You're putting in the work. So I love that you're sharing what you've learned through working with Heather and Ivan and what comes along with the Wingspan system, though it's you and your team stepping in and doing the work and continuing to intentionally practice and hold yourself accountable to deliver those results. That's so awesome to see that impact and the excitement that you have, especially as you talk about your team. What is something that you are, as you're continuing down this journey and you realize that there's still, challenges that your team is facing, what is that next shift that you're looking for from those leaders that you're introducing into the Wingspan system? What is that next objective?
So I guess my expectations there would be that my team can function without my oversight. That's really the end goal. I don't necessarily want to work myself out of a job, but I don't want to be so integral that work cannot happen without me. I want them all to succeed. I want them all to succeed me. And this is the tool that I feel like can help them get much farther than they would be. I think you said it best. What got them there is not what's going to get them to the next place. And this will, things that you don't recognize, things that you do every day. I liken it to like observations. If you've ever been a part of that, going out and observe things for safety. The people that are out there every day step over that snake every day. When you have someone that can come from the outside and look and like, you're stepping over this snake every day. It's very similar, because I say I try. I might have said it without even realizing it here. But to have someone stop you and say, hey, you're not confident in this. Why? You start to change, I guess you start to change internally, and you can really start to see the results of, what you're doing.
So awesome that how you shared that. It's so helpful to hear that perspective of very similar to safety. Coming from manufacturing myself, I realize there are many times where when you see something every day and you walk by it, we're operating from autopilot, even in that external space, and unaware at times of what is around us and how we're intentionally taking action. So love that. That's very supportive for others to hear that messaging. Before we wrap, and it's been outstanding having you here today, Danny. Really love that you came in. Before we start to close out the episode, what is one thing that we haven't touched on already today that it's really important for you to convey to our listeners?
I think we've touched on it. The biggest thing is work is not all about the skills. Getting farther in work and in life is not all about the hard skills that got you to where you are. To grow, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to step outside of the norm, and you got to seek things that can make you better. You said it, this is another tool. This tool is much more important than I ever thought it would be. Not mainly, I would say, because it makes you introspective. So when you look inside, when you get to the root cause, again, here's some more safety stuff. When you get to the root cause of why you're doing what you're doing, you can grow, you can change, and you will very likely not go much further than where you are without growth or change. And this is a good way to not only grow, but to realize what it takes to make you grow. If your most important thing you can do for your team, the people that are responsible to you and you're responsible for, is to give them as many tools as you can, and you're part of that success. So invest in your people, and you'll win.
Yeah, love it. You're so caring about your team. You've been so open today with all your discussion, and love the shifts that you've made intentionally with yourself, and the excitement that's coming from your team. Looking forward to the continued success within Koppers and your team, and how we'll continue to partner moving forward. So love it. Great having you. And for everyone listening, take a moment to consider, what are some of the tendencies that might be showing up for you unintentionally, and how is that impacting your communication? Reevaluating, how clear was that messaging? How might I shift to provide better clarity so that my team is understanding of what's required of them, and how I'm supporting that message? So continue to challenge yourself and look for ways to raise all of our performance.